In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God.
And the Word was God.
He was with God in the beginning.
Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made.
In him was life, and that life was the light of men.
The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it.
There came a man who was sent from God. His name was John.
He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all men might believe.
He himself was not that light. He came only as a witness to the light.
The true light that gives light to every man was coming into the world.
He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him.
He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him.
Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God.
Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God.
The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen the glory and the glory of one and the only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth.
John testifies concerning him. He cries out, saying, "This was he whom I said, he who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me."
From the fullness of his grace we have all received one blessing after another.
For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ.
No one has ever seen God, but God, the one and only,
Who is at the Father's side,
has made him known.
If you've ever seen The Imitation Game, you'll know that in World War II, when the Brits cracked the German Enigma code, they had a challenge on their hands. They had to keep the fact that they cracked it secret from the Germans. And so because of that, Churchill and his people with him allowed for British troops, British ships, to be destroyed by the Germans, even though they had the information that they needed to stop it, to keep the secret alive. It was effectively in Churchill's hands to allow Brits and other Allied troops to be sacrifices for the greater plan, for the greater cause. And I think it's easy to read a situation like that, into the Christmas story and the Easter story. We see at Christmas time a child come into the world, Son of God, born into the world. He grows up to be, the Son of God who ministers to the people around him, and ultimately to die on a cross. The Father sacrificing the Son, giving the Son up for the greater plan of allowing everyone into a relationship with him. One commentator even referred to this as cosmic child abuse, that the Father would give up Son and give his Son as a sacrifice. Because that's what happened, right? Well, that's not what John 1 says. And this is why John chapter 1 is probably my favourite opening to any of the four Gospels. Because we look, we can easily see at Christmas that Jesus comes into the world, and it's easy to consider that as a start of Jesus' existence, the start of the Son existing. But what does John 1 say? Well, he says that the Word was there in the beginning. From the very beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This word, later on he refers to it as the light, is Jesus. He's talking about Jesus himself. And we know that because John the Baptist was to be a messenger who would point to the light, point to the Word. And who does he point to later on? But Jesus himself. He makes a way for Jesus himself. So Jesus is the Word. Jesus is the light. And I encourage you, after this, look back at John 1 and change the Word and the light, change it to Jesus. And read it again with Jesus in there. And you'll see just what a great, incredible message this is, because what this means, Jesus was right there in the beginning. Not only that, but the world was completely made through him. Everything was made by him and through him and for him, which is, he is the creator. And that just completely changes everything, because what that means is that Jesus was there when the plan was made. This wasn't a father telling a son what to do. This was a son and a father coming together, having both created everything and saying, our creation has gone against us. Our creation is completely broken. What can we do? And the son choosing himself with the father to do the heartbreaking thing of coming into the world, being born into this broken world, to grow up, to die on a cross, and bring us into a relationship with him, taking the sacrifice of death that we deserve, so that we could have that relationship. And so when we're reading the gospel, when we're reading the account of Jesus' life, this is not somebody who's growing up to learn that this is what he's destined to do. This is somebody who came with that express purpose, already knowing what he had to do. This is the creator himself, the one who stretched out his arms, holding the very fabric of creation together. We see it when he stretches out his arms and tells creation to be still, showing a storm, and it completely listens to what he says. But then at the end, stretching out his arms and saying, it's finished. My plan is complete. This is done. I've made a way for others to be in a relationship with me. I've made a way to bring my people, my creation, back into this relationship. And that's why I think this gospel account is the best opening, because it grounds everything in the plan that was right there at the beginning of the world. Right there at the very beginning. That the one who comes to die is the one who made everything. And that to me is the greatest joy that I could ever know. My Creator chose to die for me. Merry Christmas.
Do you remember Christmas? That time of the year that's all filled with joy as a jolly fat man comes and brings us our toys. Chimney to chimney, he leaps and he bounds, filling our stockings with oranges and pounds. We leave carrots, mince pies and sherry, an offering to the man who leaves gifts by the tree. Do you remember Christmas? Playing with toys, enjoying what we've received, while Mum slaves away in the kitchen, having rolled up her sleeves. We sit down for dinner, the food overcooked. It just doesn't matter, it can be overlooked. There's 10 of us sat, all crowded round the table, pulling the crackers and telling jokes to Aunt Mabel, donning the crowns as we wolf down our food. That sense of togetherness. Wasn't it good? Do you remember Christmas? When we think of Christmas, family comes to mind. I too think of my family at Christmas time. But I say my family, we're not exactly blood related. And by exactly, I mean it's through Christ's blood we're equated. See, sometimes we miss out on the meaning of Christmas. We're so focused on mince pies and the presents we pass, we forget to see the true festive meaning. The child in the stable, his little eyes beaming. No ordinary child lay there that day. It wasn't just a boy, it was God in the hay. See, before all of this, there was divine conversation, because God was rejected by his very own creation. God knew that we needed him to have life, but when we walked away, we dug in the knife. So God saw that he had to do all the chasing if he wanted us free from the death we were facing. Son spoke to father and father to son. That was the moment this plan had begun. Do you remember Christmas? The son for some time would be away from the father. I don't know, I feel like I'd look for a plan that I'd rather, but this was the way that it had to be done. A father in love, letting go of his son. Sure, they could speak. They weren't incommunicado, but seeing one another, that was no go. For 33 years, this was how life was to be. Always to speak, but never to see. And what was the climax to this desperate tale? Death on a cross, through a friend's betrayal. Being left to die, though innocent at heart. This was the plan right from the start, because we rejected God, as I've already said, and because of that, we deserve to be dead. It may sound harsh when these words are spoken, but what else can be done when your creation is broken? Do you remember Christmas? A pandemic has ripped many families apart, but the true pandemic is the sin in our heart that caused the Son to step off of his throne. So don't think for a second our situation's unknown. God sees and he hears every one of our cries, and he gets our pain because he chose that life. Not because it was what he wanted to do, but because it was needed for him to be the father of you. So if you're not feeling the joy, just detachment this year, look to the child in the manger. He's how we draw near. Do you remember Christmas?